The first one, stop complaining. He used an example. Um, he said he lives in Dallas, and he said it
Yeah.
gets to be 100, 105 degrees in Dallas. He said, I can go in the office and complain about that. He said, that sets me down a negative path, and there's not a
Yeah.
damn thing I can do about it. So what? It's 105 degrees, right? So I think that's something that we can do is just complaining. It's too cold, or those people don't, or just all. I don't
I
have
mean,
the energy.
that's
I don't
so
have the
true,
time.
specifically with the weather. I don't know if you get this way, but I feel like the weather's been in the summers the past 2, 3, 4 years in Oklahoma been pretty brutal.
Are you
And
complaining?
I'm complaining right now.
Okay.
Well, I'm just explaining what
Stop
kind of
it.
happens to me
Yeah.
is
No.
I end up getting to the summer and I'm like, man, we need to move. We gotta go to the mountains, or we gotta go to a different country, or I don't know what, but we can't go outside, can't do all these things. And it ends up making me think that the grass is greener somewhere else when the reality is it's not. It's a
Right.
seasonal thing. There's things to do. It gets me in a bad mood. I'm like, this is awful. When in reality, there's so many things I could be doing, um, that are indoors or at a swimming pool or whatever.
Right.
Specifically, I think about raising our daughter and just how challenging it is to take her outside when it's 110 because she's going to pass out. And so anyways, I totally understand the complaining aspect and how it really gets me thinking how everything's wrong and I need to move, and it catastrophizes almost probably
Right.
is. So
And
anyways,
think about Mia when she gets a little older too, Mila. She's going to hear you complaining.
exactly.
Dad comes in, he's complaining. He's complaining that he had to work too late, complaining about the traffic, complaining about, the pollen,
Mhm.
just complaining. And it's just negative. And it's a simple thing to say. We'll talk about this a little more at the end, but stop doing it.
Mhm.
And that's something you can be aware of. You can be aware of, hey, I'm complaining, right?
Yeah.
The next one was criticizing. And he doesn't really, how would you define that?
Well, I think this is more of an internal thing. So it's really easy to criticize others. And something that I've learned through some marriage counseling and some therapy is criticizing your spouse, even just internally, can really change the way that you treat them, the way that you think about them, and the way that you act towards them long term, because you're only thinking about the negative. Where if you flip it and you just start thinking about all the positive things about your spouse, because there's a reason why you got married and there are good things about your spouse, um, it changes the way that you act. And I think internally, I criticize myself heavily. I've always done this. I think it goes back to probably whenever I played soccer. I had some great coaches, but they were very critical and they helped me become better players and a better person overall. Like I think criticizing has a place, but when you start criticizing yourself, I think it really paralyzes you, and I think it causes perfectionism in a lot of ways, where now you're over obsessing about trying to make something perfect because you're being so critical of yourself that you actually don't make progress on the other things. Um, anyways, that's kind of my thought on criticism. Maybe you
Yeah.
have something else there.
No, I mean, everybody knows what criticism is. Two things I'd like to say. One is if you're thinking critically in a negative critically way about your spouse, that will compound because whether
Oh,
you say it
absolutely.
or not, your spouse among all the other people in the world is going to immediately pick up on it,
Hmm.
especially if you don't say anything because that's, they're being, what's the matter? What did I do? Then it begins a spiral. So, yeah, criticism. The other thing when you said that it leads towards perfectionism,
Yeah.
um, not directly related to the five C's, but it's a good side branch from there. Perfectionism, for example, is seeking perfectionism is a killer. And I don't remember who first said it, but planning is where good ideas and innovation go to die, right? It kind of scratches the itch that I'm doing something, but you're not really doing something. You're
Yeah.
just trying to be perfect. My dad had an engineer who worked for Thiokol at the time, mechanical engineer, and he was great. He said, "Ain't nothing flat, ain't nothing square, ain't nothing round." So now you can get close enough, right? but you can spend bazillions of dollars trying to get just a little more rounder, but you keep going down to the microscopic level on a piece of steel and it's rough. So
Yeah.
he said, just, what's good enough? Let's go. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a little off from criticism, but don't criticize yourself or others, right?